Hello, hello. Oh my gosh, you guys, welcome to Flourish and Flooring. Welcome to Flourish in All Things. Cameron here for the WOFB podcast. You guys, I am so excited to be back from Texas. Although the Latta Creed, the whole tour there, the women's panel was amazing. I hope that you all had an opportunity to listen to last week's podcast where I was joined by Susan Delato from Latta Creed, who is absolutely amazing. Oh my gosh, we have so much to dive into today. I am super excited to be meeting with Megan Renk. You guys, if you don't know her, we are about to have some fun and dive into this amazing woman in our industry. But first, the WOFB, it is so important for us to build this community for women in tile, stone, flooring, lighting, design, entrepreneurs, and all things. I am so personally passionate about building this professional and personal growth within women to stand in their power. As you know, I am your host, Cameron Matheny, principal and founder of Cameo Studio Designs, entrepreneur, visionary, and known for the dopaminergic or CEU designer dopamine, where I merge all things tile with lighting. This podcast is sponsored by my company, Cameo Studio Designs, where you can find me at cameostudiodesigns.com and also the WOFB. If you are interested in becoming a sponsor, you can reach out to podcast@womenflooring.com. You guys, womenflooring.com, here it is, go to it. We still have room for this quarter for sponsors. And let me tell you, with the interviews that are coming down the pipeline, you want to dig into those pockets and be a sponsor because there are some really exciting things that are coming through. Next week, I'll be meeting with Jessie, who is the author and founder of The Truth About Being a Woman in Construction. Holy cow. And then Jana Valafuco, who is owner, founder of Jana or Valafuco Construction. Amazing woman. Then we've got Light Ovation, June 19th through the 22nd, where I will be broadcasting from the Vera Luz Lighting Showroom, talking with Ron Vera Luz and some of the women from Women in Lighting. I'll also be interviewing and highlighting the Women in Lighting Woman of the Year Leadership Award from the Hamilton Forge showroom. So check out some really good, exciting things that are going on with Light Ovation in the lighting industry, but also even deeper, we're nerding out. We are like geeking out. Guys, we have a book club through the WOFB. And if you are not a part of the WOFB, let me just tell you right here, go to www.womenflooring.com, get signed up, be a part of the conversation. But this book club, I've already wrote a blog about the book that we're going over, which is Rejection Proof. As an entrepreneur, been there, done that a million times. I love rejection. So some really amazing things coming down the pipeline. But speaking of amazing, are you guys ready? Because today I'm so delighted. Again, Megan Renk. You guys, Mosaic Tile Installation Company is her company. She is out of Idaho. She's a published author, NTCA Rockstar Award. I see her backstage. She should be smiling while I'm doing this introduction. She was the speaker at the panel at Coverings. She was also given the award from the WOFB Leadership. She's a mom, an amazing mom, and the creator of Little Hands, Little Tile Puzzle that is sponsored by the NTCA. So without further ado, I think last time I would have thrown some music on, but today we're not. Megan, hey.
Hi, how are you?
What an amazing introduction that was for you, girl.
It's a lot, but it's like 5 years compact, so it's a lot to hear in a list.
Yeah, right? All good stuff. So whenever I first met you, I believe in person, was at Coverings this year. And I was so inspired and I wanted to know so much more about you because there you were at the trade show. You had your son with you who's like just gleaming with your beautiful glass award and is so excited for his mom. Like, wow. I was like, I got to know who this girl is. I need to be friends with her and I need to learn more about her. So for those of us that don't know you though, who is Megan Renk?
So, in the tile industry, I'm a licensed and insured tile contractor, but I started off tile on the back end of a bad relationship. And I moved into my stepfather's basement for 7 months, and I was a really bad alcoholic. And my son was 2. And so I wasn't really worried about him remembering too much. And so I kind of was just trying to drink some woes away. And after 7 months, my stepdad was like, you got to get out, stop doing this to yourself, get a job. And I had never been, in construction or anything, but I had an ex-boyfriend that had done tile and I was always interested. And so I was on Craigslist, and this is back when Craigslist still was cool to look into jobs, and it said tile listing, no experience necessary. I'm like, boom. So I called the guy, and it ended up being my ex-boyfriend's old boss. And I had seen him on jobs because I would go with my ex-boyfriend sometimes and, grout or do silicone or whatever. And he remembered me because I would always be asking questions. I'd be like, is this the way to do that? I mean, is this the way to do that? So I'm kind of memorable in that way because I'm always bugging people.
You were critiquing that bad boyfriend's work, I take it.
A little bit. Trying not to. I didn't mean to.
That's okay. You got an eye.
But yeah, the guy was desperate. He was in a hotel. He had 300 rooms to himself, with a couple of guys. And he was like, look, I just need bodies. I remember you. Just show up on Monday and, start work. And so it was a Friday at the time. So I got a babysitter for 2 weeks and showed up on Monday. Started working in, it was commercial. And it was a lot of guys. And I walked in with and like even on the walk there, because I had to walk, I didn't have a car. It was 2.5 miles there and 2.5 miles back. And I walked there, and even on the walk, I'm going, I have no idea what I'm doing. It's construction, but we're just going to go with it. And just, I started working.
You did it. And so obviously that is what pursued you to continue to do tile, because you were able to do something that you weren't so sure that you could do it, but you did it, and you did it with what sounds like some grit. During that time, what were some of those biggest challenges that you came up against? Was it just not knowing materials, knowing how to do the application? Like, what were those challenges then?
So, knowing now that when you enter into a trade that you need to be an apprentice for a while and learn how to maneuver on a job site, learn the terminology, there are steps. When I first started, the very, very first day, I was given a box of glass tile mosaic sheets and a bucket of mastic and said, here you go. And so I laid the sheet down on the counter, and I took the trowel and I was putting the mastic on the sheet, thinking that's how you did it. And then I would stick the sheet to the wall, and then I would clean all the lines out, and I'm going insane. And this guy comes in. It was another contractor on the other half. There were 2 tile contractors. And so the other contractor sticks his head in and he goes, you're new, huh? And I go, yeah, but it's fine. I got this. It's fine. I'll figure it out. He goes, are you sure you don't want any help? And he could see that clearly I'm in the trenches. And so he shows me, spread it on the wall. Just go like that on the wall and then stick the sheet to the wall. And my mind just was like, oh my gosh, duh,
Yeah.
So it was definitely a moment. Like, I was just kind of being handed whatever. And, you can see how poorly that could have gone had someone else not been like, hey, just in case you knew,
Right.
But yeah.
That is such an amazing story of like, I can remember too, I know you're big in the Facebook groups. I am not. And I'm not, because whenever I first started my tile industry or my tile business, it's been 6 years. I actually asked the difference between mortar and grout, and I got reamed. And I thought, well, that's not the place to ask. But honestly, then someone came back. It was actually Luke Miller years ago. Luke Miller
Oh, I
came
love
back
Luke
and
Miller.
said, hey, can I talk to you? I'm so interested in what you're doing. And I was just integrating, taking my LED, infusing it into the tile industry. But lessons that we learned so early in the game. And I think that that is what gave me the grit, as it sounds like gives you the grit of who you are in this industry today. So, reframing kind of what it is that you're talking about then, who is Megan Renk now in the tile industry?
Okay. Realizing how little the people that I was working with knew. You know, just that first day, having a boss just let me run loose with hundreds of dollars of glass and just do whatever you want. And there's no care in the world. For me, it's like, that seems kind of odd, but it's a hotel, whatever. Well, when you start getting into residential and you start charging people actual money, like I'm not a homeowner yet, but I know that when I do own a home, I want quality work in my home. When you get into that, it becomes personal. And I'm such an emotionally connected and personal person that when I started seeing that we were doing things wrong in the world in tile and that no one cared, that's why I was like, okay, well, maybe I should start asking questions. And then I realized not very many people even cared. And so in my area, it was really hard to even find anybody that would teach me anything above. Just, it's basically learn at this level, stay at this level, make all the money you need, and never advance. Because why change if it works, it works. But we're using like Durarock and like taping and mudding, and I mean just like things that you could grow out of in advance. We aren't shimming walls. Spot setting, I learned how to spot set before I learned how to actually set tile. I learned all the wrong ways first. And so in doing that, it kind of made me let go. This is not appropriate. I'm taking people's money and I would like to make moral money. I like to sleep at night. And
Mm-hmm.
the fact that I was doing something wrong, and then I would ask my bosses and stuff, and they would be, oh, it's fine. No, it's not. So I started joining the groups. Like you said, I joined Global Tile Posse. And the creator of Global Tile Posse, I would start posting on there. And then the creator of Global Tile Posse, Jason McDaniel, he reached out to me and he would say, I can tell you're spot setting. I can tell you're not doing it right. I can tell but here's how to do it right. And so he would always criticize me with the constructive criticism, but then always offer, but here's how to do it right. And all the avenues. He would never just criticize. He would always give me all the things I did wrong and then all the ways to do it right. So in doing that, it gave me the confidence to start actually getting online and realizing that if I post and something's wrong, that's where the outlet is going to be for me versus trying to find it in my little community. And then
Right.
it gave me the motivation to say, okay, I can just be vulnerable. What's the worst that's going to happen? It's going to mess up one time. Chances are, if I'm vulnerable online and I mess up, I'll have support versus if I keep it to myself, I'm only supporting myself.
That's
So,
right.
and so when I started to grow, Jason was such a crutch for me. And then I kind of started branching out and getting a couple other mentors so that it wasn't so much on him. But when
Mm-hmm.
I made a mistake, I would call him and be crying and just like, what do I do? But you said you would catch me if I fall. I'm falling. And he's like, I got a big net. Don't worry about it. And
Right.
so if it was money, if it was $100 to buy Curdy to fix a pan, he was like, what's your Venmo? And if it was answering his phone in the middle of something, whatever, to make sure that I had the knowledge, that was where I was like, okay, I'm okay to pursue this career by myself without having to work for someone that really doesn't give any kind of craps.
I think about that, And to me and anyone I'm sure who is listening, the fact that like you're not CTI trained yet, which we're going to dive into that, but the
Not yet.
fact that you took this limiting belief that was just there and you were able to catapult yourself into an arena that you didn't know much about. What is so exciting to me is the fact that you have so much education that you're still learning, you're still gaining, and where you're going to be in the conversation from 6 years from now, you're going to be like changing the industry for women, I feel, for a very, very long time. And if what we're hearing right now is an inspiration, girl, I don't know what is. I mean, this is just carry on. I'm just so excited that hearing. So basically, just from a Facebook group with Jason helping you and all of these people pushing you through this limited belief, you went out on your own as an entrepreneur. How many years has that been?
So 5 years on the 9th. So
wow.
Yeah.
How are you going to celebrate that?
I'm gonna go to work.
Of course you are. Oh my gosh, that's so amazing.
And I did actually leave the first boss and move with another boss that actually helped me get out on my own. And while I was working with him, he does things a little bit differently than I would like. Not wrong, but I was always questioning, and he didn't have the answers because he just didn't care to. He does things right, but only one way. And I wanted to know all the ways. And so he was like, well, I'll help you get out on your own. And then if you still need help, I'm here for you, but you can learn all the ways out, do your online thing, whatever,
I love that.
So I actually had a second boss that I worked with that got me licensed on my own. But that was because he was a very respectful person, had 6 sisters. That probably helped him care for me. But he saw my potential and was like, you are a passionate person. We need to get you out on your own. And then I'll be your safety net because I know that you have anxiety. So
that's so great when there are, people that are in the industry that like believe in what it is that we're doing. And, I feel like that, like you being on that first commercial job site, I've been that person where I, flew to another state, was by myself, and was essentially taking on a full-blown commercial job with 70 other men and me. And, it's so amazing because I talked about this before, like as a female in this industry, sometimes we have to tap into that masculine energy. Sometimes we have to tap into that feminine energy, but also the men on the job sites. Like I have some of my closest friends that I've met on job sites that just tell me all their girl problems, all their women, all their woman problems.
They
and I'm just like, oh God.
They do.
You believe that one.
You are not a girl on a commercial job site. You are one of the guys and they don't care.
Right? Yeah. Guys, for those of you that are just joining me, I am with Megan Renk. You can find her on Facebook. She owns the tile company Mosaic Tile. So Megan, let's dive into, so you kind of talked about your past, which those of you that haven't heard her whole story, it's published out there through NTCA or through the coverings, right?
Coverings, women's talking panel this year.
Okay.
So I told that, and then I'm in a couple different, I've just kind of a couple different things. I've done a couple podcasts on it.
Okay, great. So people
years.
can find you. We're going to dive a little bit more into your past. We're kind of all over because that's how we roll. We're so excited to be able to learn from each other. So from where you were to where you are today as an entrepreneur, I know we got to have these qualities, but what does a day-to-day job look like? If I wanted to hire you for, let's say, doing my bathroom and I'm your customer, walk me through as an entrepreneur, what does that look like for you from start to finish?
So I don't advertise. So I'm just word of mouth, and then I work for some general contractors. So whether you're, depending on where you're coming from, you'll be a general contractor. And then I've already built those relationships. And so those are empty job sites. So if we were to talk about a homeowner perspective, if you're a homeowner, you get my number from someone, you call me. I probably don't answer because I screen my calls. But if I know that you're someone that's looking to hire me, I answer immediately. So I'll, give you a call. I'm scheduling you whenever you can. I make it basically as convenient for my clients as I possibly can. When you hire me, you're hiring an experience. I don't want you to have to stress about anything. So from the very get-go, from calling me, I want to be available for you no matter what. So whether I'm on a job site spreading mud, I'm going to answer my phone most of the time. Mm-hmm. So I don't always if I'm with my kid, but that's very little that I shut my phone off for that. So and then I just talk about what you need. I show up to your house whenever it's convenient for you. So normally it's like I got a timeline. When are we looking to do it? Are we immediate or whenever? And then that's when I schedule my first meeting out. And then I just show up in normal construction clothes and kind of walk through what's going on. And I see where your expectations are as a client. And then I give you the options that maybe you haven't thought of. So there are the people that do the Instagram thing and they look, or Pinterest, and they look and they get all their options and they show you everything they want. But then there are also the people that are like, well, I just want this tile here. And they have no idea anything, any of the options, and so I kind of gauge where they're at there, what kind of design they want, and then I can elaborate. I like to make sure that they know of the options that maybe they weren't told of by someone else. So if I'm a second opinion, I like to throw options out like mitering edges, using things.
Customization.
Yes, customization, because in this area, the flooring companies are so dominating with the employees and they want to just do this wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, that there's no customization and you don't have control as a contractor. So gotcha. When you hire personally, I want to make sure that they have the options when they're being told that they can't, when they go to find tile. And that's the thing too. So I have specific tile people that I work with in specific flooring companies that will just, whatever I say, they just say, okay, if she said it, that's fine. Because a lot of the times, if you just send someone to a flooring company and you're a tile contractor and they'll say, oh, well, I want 12 by 24s on a shower pan. The company will go, oh, you can't do that. No, your installers can't do that. I can, however, do that because I'm qualified to do it because I did the research. So there's that divide that I always search for, because I really want to make sure that the customer's getting what they want and educating them on tile, because I'm the tile doctor, they're the patient.
Gotcha.
And then from there, I don't do tile myself. I send everyone. I say, look, if you don't care about spending a bunch of money, it's Home Depot or Lowe's. I'm not picky. I can work with anything. I schedule enough time to where I don't care if it's wonky tile from Home Depot. I don't, it doesn't bother me. So I say, but if you want help with design and you're looking for more to please an aesthetic, here are some designers. So I just kind of give them a list. And I feel out for how comfortable they are on their own versus if they need help. So if it's an elderly couple that might not know, I might just send them straight to a designer and say, here, this is who you talk to. But if they're, if they're self shoppers, I'm like, girl, go to Home Depot, I don't care. Right. So it's a lot of figuring out just what they want, connecting with them as humans, finding out their personalities a little bit. I mean, I'm an empath, so that's the way that I approach my business, because that's just my little way to do it. Sure. But then I, get a quote going. I always have contracts. Everything is warranted for a certain amount of time. Labor's always, warranted for caulking and like all that stuff. So I have contracts that list everything, and I itemize everything in my contract so there's no questions. I don't like being asked questions. I have enough things going on. So
wait, I have a question. Are you a
Oh yeah.
mutter? Are you a mutter or a foamer?
Oh, oh. You would ask that, wouldn't you? Um, Both.
Good
So,
girl.
foam on the walls 100% of the time, mud on the pan 100% of the time.
Okay. What's your
So,
go-to products?
so right now I'm morphing so much because I'm trying so much new stuff. I love Go Board.
Okay.
Absolutely love Go Board. I've tried Schluter, Weedy, Hydroblock. I love the way Go Board and Hydroblock. Just the way that there's no banding. I
Mm,
love that. It's
okay.
ADHD friendly that, and I like Go Board because it's just knife snap, there's no weird stuff.
That's
And then
amazing.
I like mud pans because I'm a clumsy dame and
Mm.
I just put everything through a foam pan. And I know that from experience. So and I follow a lot of the elites that are older, and like Sal de Blasi is a huge one that I follow. I just got to meet him. I was starstruck. Like I stopped in my tracks. I was like, "Oh, that's him!" And then he hugged me. I was like, "Oh my god!" But find out we live in the same area when we grew up. It was way cool. Anyways, so he has the same perspective as I do. A mud pan can go anywhere right now. I don't have to level the floor. I don't have to mess with anything. It's right now and it's everything. And I can grade it to what I want.
Gotcha.
Because a lot of the time, like if I'm doing pennies and I'm doing a foam pan, I float out waves. So like those creases in the pans, I float those
Mhm.
out so that it's almost like a cone. And then that's how I disappear all my lines. A lot of people I love doing pennies. I'm known for my penny pans.
Oh
And
my gosh, I
that's,
love it. Penny
you know,
Pan Megan.
thanks. Um, but it's I like the control of what mud gives you. But then for the walls, foam because mud's heavy and I'm old and my arms hurt. So foam.
Got you. What about your like setting materials or mortars or grouts? Do you have a go-to for those or just what's available?
Just I work with what's available for my ADHD.
Radically? No.
I know, right? I know Ron Nash is going to be like, I know what you should use. Um, but I work off of availability because of my ADHD. I have to be very careful about my energy exertion. So when I'm setting up a job, because I'm a one-man show, I got to do everything. It's real easy to go to Lowe's or Home Depot because they're here. But I do have access to things like Latacrete. I do have access to Ardex. I love Ardex X5. But I haven't ever used Latacrete stuff. So
Mm,
let me just put that in there. Hint, hint, if anyone wants to send me
yeah.
anything.
Got you, got you.
but But yeah, I've never used Latacrete stuff, but I love
Dude,
X5.
their
I just
grout. So I use all of their grout on my commercial jobs. I actually got them spec'd into my commercial jobs, and anything
it's
I
like
do with lighting,
Spectralock, right?
yeah, and
That's
XL, but
right.
anything I do with lighting, they have a grout sparkle. Like,
Yeah.
come on, come on.
See,
It is like awesome.
and a lot of the time, that stuff's like an hour away. And like
Gotcha.
it's so, so it's but then also some of the stuff that I do is from general contractors and they just know that I just come in and install the tile. And so like,
Right. It's provided.
for yeah, so I'm branching out a little bit, but it's really hard because one because of the one man thing, but two because of my ADHD. It really makes it to where I have to keep it controlled a little bit. But
Yeah,
I like Go Board and I do use a lot of Schluter too because it's available. So Go
sure.
Board and Schluter I use a lot.
Yeah, those are
And
all
Flow
go-to.
Effect. I use Flow
Okay.
Effects because I love Chase because anytime I've needed anything, he's another person that when you have a product like Flow Effects and you need help, you have to be available for your contractors. or you have to have someone available for them. Every time I have had a flow effects issue, I call Chase crying on Facebook, and he answers and solves it within like an hour. I've
So
had
that
I had
customer
one issue.
service,
I
that
mean,
customer service for you is like key right now
yeah, it
because
is.
of where you
Um,
are.
and so that, and then anything I order is here in a couple of days. So it's just I use that exclusively just because, again, the ease of access. His website also is very ADHD friendly. It's all pictures.
Mm,
So I just click on the picture.
gotcha.
So
Okay, that makes it easy then for sure. Speaking of education, I know that like education for you, it's important. You love it. It comes natural to you. Like I could see you being a teacher, I'm sure, or teaching somewhere in the near future. But speaking of education, tell me about, are you going to be part of the CTI on Women's International Women's Day next year?
oh yeah.
Dude, that's
Yes.
so exciting.
I am going to be there. Mason's going to be there also because we are a package deal.
Got it.
But yep,
Love.
I said, tell me when, and I'm there with bells.
So that is next. I think it's March of 2025. Is that correct? International Women's Day here in
Yes.
Florida. Um, we're going to talk more about that on the podcast later in the year. We'll actually be there to support you and any women that are involved in this. So I'm super excited. It's one of my goals. I always announce this, but I've got two huge goals. One is to be on the cover of Forbes magazine for the most successful tile installing company in the country, if that will happen.
Yeah.
I've got some big shoes to fill on that.
If you've
But
said it, it'll happen.
yeah, right. But also, for me, it's important. I've always wanted to have an all-female installation crew for my commercial jobs because like a lot of people, and this is one of the things that I used to talk a lot about. So I used to be on the Masterminds group, kind of like as a board member for Tile Money. And one of the things as a serial entrepreneur that I'm very good at doing is having a vision, but putting that vision into play. And I like money. And I like for my installers to make money. So that is something that's truly important for me, is helping people see what their value is. And whenever I know that someone is there to educate, they want to be educated, they want to learn, they're a sponge like myself, that is what is so important to me. So I know that for you, you've talked about the CTI being a goal for you. What are some other important lessons? I'm going to switch just a little bit. What are some other important lessons through being an entrepreneur, through being a mom, through starting where you did, where you are now? What are some lessons that you've learned in life as an entrepreneur? And if you could dream up anything, Megan, what does that look like? So I'll back up. What are lessons that you've learned in life?
I was going to say that's a lot.
That's why I backed up.
Lessons I've learned in life. Breathe first, speak second. Take a breath before you even say anything, because normally in that breath, your brain gets enough oxygen to make a better decision than the one you're probably going to make. So I always, when I'm upset, I always try and take a breath first and think for a second. It's gotten me out of a lot of trouble.
You allow yourself.
And then was that?
You allow yourself to get grounded.
Yeah. And then, yeah. And then studying psychology for my ADHD and my son. I found out I was ADHD when I started studying psychology for my son. And so that was important because we all struggle with things, but the problem is we're always looking for external solutions. And the problem is it's never an external solution that's going to ultimately help us. It's always going to be an internal mental coping mechanism. And so anybody that I've talked to recently, even I just spoke with Tia Vesser, who's the 2021 Women's CrossFit Champion, first place. She works out next door. And I talked to her last weekend, and I said, if there was one thing that you would give a piece of advice to anyone trying to grow, what would it be? And she said, it's all mental. It's all in your head. It's never anything out in the world. It's always up here. And so training your brain to find coping mechanisms for the triggers that point you in bad directions and steer you in the right direction. But you have to learn how to do that. And so it's hard to teach that. It's hard to tell anybody how to learn that, because I just kind of stumble across psychology on my own. But
So
I think
basically,
studying the brain and like the mind and how, emotions.
yeah. So,
Because
I mean,
emotional intelligence.
oh my gosh, now we're getting somewhere. Emotional intelligence is key, being present and not allowing the chaos that's between the ears, such as thoughts, to dictate our emotions or how it is that we react in a situation. Those are lessons
Right.
that I think those are lessons that by our age, if we haven't learned them, we should definitely be working on them. And anyone that's in the industry, I mean,
Right.
it's so important to have that balance of how essentially do we navigate with how we learn, how we process, what it is that we know we need to do when things don't go our way, and then those reactions. And I think that you nailed that on the head. Is
Okay.
tell me about this Rockstar Award. Tell me about the Rockstar Award.
So the Rockstar.
Yeah.
Oh, I I I didn't actually know I was gonna get it. I just got an email one day and it said I won the Rockstar Award. Um, I was nominated by Michelle Chapman of the NTCA, and I worked with her for creating Little Hands, Little Tiles. And for the Rockstar Award, you have to be nominated. And so, for whatever reason, she thought I deserved that. So,
I
but
love
yeah,
it.
I won, and then I thought it would be really cool to bring my son and accept the award in person. And so, yeah, I made it a point to be able to do that for him.
My gosh, how fun. He's so sweet. I met him there. He was like running around playing. He had your award in hand and he was just so excited for you. And I love that too. All through my years, so I played roller derby for years. I raced road bikes. My kids, when my girls are now 24 and 26 and 23, they remember those days, but they were right there along with mom. If I was, knocking chicks out in the rink, they were just like doing homework and watching. So the fact that like you keep your child involved with you on that, I mean, I think it's amazing. Keep doing it. He's going to learn so much from you, which is super rad. The other thing that you recently did,
I have reasons why.
we all do. We all do. We have another podcast for that though. Something also that I know that you were doing recently that I want to be a big supporter of is tell me a little bit about Self-Care Sunday.
Oh, okay. Um, so the tile industry lost a very beloved tile contractor recently on the 17th of May. And so when that happens, there's sort of a somber effect that happens on social media and through the industry. And you start seeing people arise with, if you need any help, here's my number. If you need any help, here's my number. And I thought, this person was someone that I had spoken to, I had gotten some advice from every once in a while. And because of how high he was status wise as a contractor. And so it had touched me from that aspect, but I also have a lot of personal, family and friends that have been affected by mental health. And initially, that's what happened. He lost his battle with mental health. And so I decided that, I would love to put my name and number out there and say if anybody needs help, sure. So I went and proceeded to make a post, put my phone number. But then sitting back from that, I thought that's only one post for one time, and it's only going to be seen for this little bit of time. And it's not actually doing what I needed to do. It was more of like an ego thing for me to even do it, because it's not actually going to help the way that I want it to. At least in my head, that's where I was going with it. So I thought, where I need to do more. And I thought, I love talking about psychology. I love the things that I've been implementing. The last 2 years were implementation, and the first 4 were like theory. And so I've actually gotten to experience a lot of self-care things for myself within psychology. So I decided I want to go on my personal Facebook page, go live on Sunday morning at 9 and say, Self-Care Sunday for 30 minutes. I'm just going to talk about my life. And if anybody wants to pop in and say, this is what I'm going through, this is what I'm going through. And I have a really good way, because I'm ADHD and I'm an empath, I have a really good way of making connections with people. And anytime that people open up to me, I almost always seem to make them feel better or a different perspective. And so I feel like for mental health, and especially when we're reaching these times that you're seeing so many more people struggle with mental health and losing that battle, I think it's important to teach coping mechanisms that we can implement when things can't be so external. So when we reach out, if we're in those times of need and we really need someone and we're reaching out and there's no one there, you need to have coping mechanisms to be the person you need. And so for me, a lot of the times was, I would reach out and people were so tired of hearing from me that they're like, please stop. And because then it starts to affect their mental health. And so I had to say, okay, now I'm affecting all my relationships. I have to stop playing the victim and start being responsible for my own demise in my own
Mm,
life. And then when I started doing that is when I started coming out of this hole I had dug myself. And then I can breathe again. And I think that that's important to teach people. And so all I want to do is go online and talk about my own experiences, and in the efforts that'll maybe change perspective on,
right.
external versus internal, and then just start the conversation, make people feel
Yeah.
comfortable about talking about it and know that it's normal.
Right. And, guys, I know just having my own history of, and Megan, thank you for sharing. But having my own history of working in trauma care, just out of college and being, a counselor for trauma. Right now, I know the NTCA is working on having that mental health connection and to be able to help contractors, men, women, you name it. But if you ever do need someone to talk to out of Facebook groups, out of family, out of whatever, there is this crisis line that you can text the 9882 or text talk to the 741-741. And Megan, I know that like for you and the relationship that you had with this individual, it was important and it's very sad. And, my condolences go to you and to his family. So I look forward to hearing what it is that you talk about for Self-Care Sunday. I think that there's a lot of people that do too. And knowing what I know about you and knowing how the things that I've heard is it's important to be present. It's important to realize who you are, what you have, that education. And the thing that I think is so phenomenal is someone like you, every single tier wall that you break down and you realize you can do this and you realize you are this person at that moment when you make that first million as whatever it is that you're doing, I believe because of your grit, you are going to be someone that we are going to continue to watch in the education sector, continue to watch as a female leader in this industry. And I am so excited to be a part of this and so excited to be a part of your life. Now, I asked you a question earlier, and it's so important that for me, and I think for our listeners, because you, I believe, are this visionary and this creative thinker. If you could dream up your life, what would it look like as an entrepreneur?
This is going to be different. I actually have been studying to be a sage. My ideal life is to live in a cave with a fire and a loincloth, and to have people all over the world come and talk to me about life, and for me to help them with perspective. But as a modern day person,
Girl, you know that cave is going to cost some money. That
it's
loin, I hope,
tile
is
cave.
Louis Vuitton.
A tile cave. No, I like giving people perspective on things that they didn't see clearly before. And so whether that be in tile, where I've already fallen in love with the industry and the education there, I just like to teach people. I mean, and that's really that's why I do the videos, and that's why I love, being in people's homes and talking to people, is the connection. And I feel like I have that in spades over a lot of other people because of just my brain stuff and all that. But I would love to be a teacher, but you got to pay dues first. So that's what we're doing.
Okay, I love it. And as far as what you're doing with the NTCA for the buy little hands, I'm sorry.
Oh, I said I don't know if it froze or not.
Oh, no, we're good now. As far as the buy the little hands, little tile puzzle, that can be found through the NTCA website as well. That was something that you created and that the NTCA is sponsoring for your, again, this creative mind that you have. It's so extraordinary. I love it. I love that I was able to talk with you today. I'm super excited about listening and staying involved with you through the Self-Care Sundays. And that's through your Facebook, right?
Yep. Every Sunday, I'm going to go live at 9 Pacific, noon Eastern, and then it'll just be available to watch.
My gosh, so amazing. Megan, thank you so much for joining me today. I was so excited to talk to you and look forward to continuing our conversations throughout some of the Facebook groups, not all of them, because I don't roll like you do. I stand clear of some of those,
I'm
but
not in many.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so
much.
You
gotta have perspective in there.
Absolutely. So, well, thank you so much for joining me today. Oh, I love that. And you and I will connect again. I hope that you enjoy your Monday. And yeah, I can't wait to hear more. Thank you. Hey guys, listen, so if you want to become a sponsor of the podcast, we have packages that start from $0 a month all the way up to $500 every single show. So check out the WOFB for more information. We will chat next with Jessie, from the author of Women in Construction and the truth about being a woman in construction. So that is up next week. Thank you again. Okay.